Now let's have a look at some static methods available on Promise class. So some of the most commonly used of them are Promise.all and Promise.all.settled. Promise.all is in fact the most commonly used the static method on Promise class. Why? Because this is a very fairly common use case, right? Let's say you have a few promises, and this P1, P2, P3 can be any promises. Let's say you can get these promises from API calls like fetch, or you have created your own promises, or let's say this is the promise dot resolve simply, which gives us a promise which resolves to 10, 20, 30. So P1, P2, P3 are promises which resolve to 10. Now what if each of them takes some time? So let's say this P1 is some fetch API request, some promise, right? Now they will take some time. So let's say 1 second, right? And I have three such requests, then each of them will take 1 second. Then I don't want to wait for first and then trigger second if I don't have any dependency. If I have dependency, then I have to wait for the response, and then from that response I have some data from which I will construct the second URL. Then I have to wait. But let's say there are three APIs I have to hit, or two APIs I have to hit, and they are like not dependent much, right? So I can simply fire them parallelly, right? And let's say they will give us response, and quickly I will get so what it does is that it creates one promise. Promise.all creates one promise from multiple promises. So it is something like this: Promise.all, and inside that you give as an array p1, p2, p3, okay, as an array. And it can be like any length array, but it has to be an array, right? Even two are there, then p1, p2 just as an array of two elements, right? Now if you pass it, then the final thing which you get is a promise. Final thing which you get a promise, and that promise accounts for the resolved value for all the promises, right? So something like this p dot, then you can see that promise then you can see that the data which is coming is actually also an array, and that array data will corresponding to like, whatever the order in which you gave the promises. All the resolved value will come in that order only, okay? And then you can use await also, right? So let's say const p1 is equal to promise dot resolve, and let's say 10, right? So 20, 30. Now what I'm saying here is that, like you created a promise.all, so I am also creating a promise.all, but directly I'm getting data using await, let's say. So let's say data is equal to await, and then I'm using promise.all. P1, P2, P3. Okay. Now I will put it in some IFE so that I can run it, and then I will print the data. You can see that I'm getting 10, 20, 30, right? And again, I can use proper destructuring also here, right? So we learned earlier that, let's say this is the D1 is data 1, D2 is data 2, D3 is data 3, right? Then I have got all the like separately data also I have got. So 10, 20, 30, right? So this is the success case, right? This is a success case. What happens in case of error? So let's say uh, something went wrong. So let's try to put a try catch to see what happens in case of error. Or let's say error. So right now obviously it is successful. Let's reject one of them. So let's reject this thing. reject, and let's give it like error 3, whatever. Any one of them you reject, then you see that basically you are getting like the not only you are getting rejected, like others data even if it has not come, right? So you have not got the earlier data. Okay, so that is what the thing is, that if one of them is rejecting, then the whole promise rejects. You can see that it has not gone inside, then the whole promise is rejected. And if you use async await, then you can see that the whole like this thing will not be executed, next line will not be executed, it will directly throw error and it will go inside catch, and it will and basically we are getting error, right? And let's say any of the other things, other promises which worked fine, that also we cannot get, right? So yeah, that is the thing. So it gives us the advantage of having parallel request. But then if we are interested in all of them combined answer, right? If any of them, one of them fails, then it is fine for us to like not to proceed, then it is fine. But what if I know that some might fail, some might pass, some might resolve, and some might reject? But whatever resolves and whatever rejects, I should be aware of that, and whatever resolves, I should be aware of their data. What if I need that? That is my requirement. In that case comes the Promise.all settled method. This method, what it does is that same, exactly same, but now instead of Promise.all, if you would use Promise.settled, and then let's say simply like await and take the data, then earlier this data was simply an array 10, 20, 30, and we and if there is any if there was any error, then the whole promise failed, and then it threw error, right? Now we see that this data, this will not fail. This data will be something like this. This data will be not simply 10, 20, 30, rather it will not be an array of numbers, rather, or array of results. Rather it will be an array of objects where the value will contain the result, and there will be also a status field. And it is saying that status fulfilled, all three fulfilled, all three values 10 to 30. This helps in case when let's say some of them is rejecting, then the whole promise is not rejecting. The whole Promise.all settled, that whole promise is not rejecting, rather that is still fulfilled. Even if all are rejected, then also that whole promise will be fulfilled. The only difference is that now fulfilled value will be something like this, that the final fulfilled value will be an array of objects with status and value, and it depends on whatever happened to in the promises. So the promises were fulfilled, then yeah, fulfilled, rejected. In fact, if all rejected, then all will be rejected and all will be reasons will be there, right? But still this overall promise will not be rejected. Okay, so this is the advantage if you are interested in knowing partial answers of some of the promises also. Okay, even if some got rejected. So this is where it comes handy. Okay, so that will be all for now. See you in the next one.